Welcome. I have a gentleman with me at the moment. He's a sea captain, and his name is Edward. Edward. Thank you, Edward Smith. Yes. Just take your time, sir. Just take your time. Right. Okay. He's telling me that there's been a lot of gully wash, is his words, said about what happened, and he's telling me that he was the captain on an ocean liner called the Olympic. He said it was identical. It was made or built side by side to a ship they would eventually call Titanic. Now, the Olympic was a seafaring transatlantic vessel, and he said it just couldn't keep out of trouble. He's saying there was an incident with a tugboat where a tugboat got stuck at the back end of it, thank you. And right, okay. He says that they also had an incident with a Royal Navy ship called Hawk or Eagle? Hawk. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Called Hawk, and it damaged the side. It had to go back to where it was made in Belfast. Thank you, sir. And it sat alongside the constructed ship Titanic. He's saying that they used a lot of parts sorry, I do apologise. They were going to use a lot of parts that was meant for the Titanic onto the Olympic. He's saying that it cost the company White Star a lot of money because the Royal Navy said that the fault was with the Olympic. It was the Olympic's fault, and they had a massive payout. Yep. Right, okay. So it didn't bankrupt them, but it dented, thank you, sir, it dented their profits, thank you. And the insurance wasn't void, thank you. They would have put the premiums up even higher and probably wouldn't have insured it. Now, at this particular time, there was lots and lots of very wealthy, very powerful men, women, who used to sail quite frequently, not just around the world, but from London to the US. Thank you, sir. All right, okay. He says, and all this time, he says, I used to speak to my wife about it. And he's saying, my Sarah. Right, thank you. And we had a child at the time, little Mel. And yeah, he's saying trying to hold a relationship down when you're going backwards and forwards was very difficult, and sometimes he used to take them with him. Yeah. Right, okay. He's telling me that the Olympic was identical in every way, shape, and form. to the Titanic. And what they actually did, so that they could get insurance, was they swapped the Olympic name on the same ship with the Titanic name. So the Titanic became the Olympic, and the Olympic became the Titanic. And the idea was to have the maiden voyage of the Titanic. Okay, he's saying that he didn't know at the time, he suspected, but he didn't know that they'd got designs to scuttle the ship or to destroy it. He says they all knew. He says, and my wife, I've been telling her what I thought. She was my closest confidant and the only one I could really genuinely trust. And she used to write it down in the memoirs, and she had a diary. You know. Now he's saying that the White Star was insured at the time by an American insurer, and he was supposed to go on board on the maiden voyage. He didn't at the time, but he made his apologies. He couldn't do it, and what happened then was, yeah, all right. He was supposed to meet up with the rich and powerful that did sail. Yeah. Right. Okay. He says, but they're right. Okay, because he'd been in the Royal Navy himself. He's telling me he was a commander in the Royal Navy. Right, okay, he's saying it was a reserve Navy. Okay, and he'd been sailing, taking supplies and whatnot to Africa and the Africas. And right, okay, Boer War, thank you, sir. And so he knew about the ways of intelligence and how intelligence works. This is, you call it today, spying. Yeah. He says they were always around. He says he doesn't want to go into detail on that fateful night, but he says there was a horrific. He said it was the spirit of the ship that screamed. She screamed so loud, he says you could hear it on 4 continents. And he said that the pressure of the plates were already damaged, but the pressure of the water on the plates popped the rivets, and they eventually ran into. He doesn't know what they ran into. He says it could have been an iceberg. He says I don't know. He says we'll say iceberg, but he says an iceberg probably wouldn't make that much damage. He says I didn't intentionally go down with the Olympic. He says I made sure that all the men, women, and children disembarked safely, or as safely as they could. And by the time it got to the stage where it was my turn, he says radio communications were still being sent by telegraph. And he says by the time it came to my turn, he says it was too late. He says the water was ice cold anyway, and I didn't last that long. He says I got hypothermia. But what he's telling me is that later in life, or later in his wife and child's life, they were reunited with him in the spirit world. And he's telling me that Sarah, my Sarah, my wife, was going to write memoirs, my memoirs, and the joint memoirs that we both shared, and the joint words that we had, and the theory that we came up. And she was on her way to a publisher's, and unfortunately she met her end in London, and she came to me in the world of spirit, and I said, "Goodness me, girl, why are you here?" And she's been a terrible accident. Little Mel, he says, came to us later on. He says, although she wasn't very little anymore. But he says, "I hope you don't mind me telling my story." And he says, "For what it's worth, thank you, sir." He's saying, "Make of it what you will." But that's what happened. And on that note, bless you, sir. God bless to all of you, to your wife and child. On that note, he is pulling away. And thank you for tuning in and listening. Bye for now.